Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our CIP meeting. Call the meeting to order at 4:04. We've got a couple of members missing. Hopefully they'll join us as time goes on here. So approval of the agenda. Can I get someone? Oh, speaking of someone joining us, here comes someone now. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda, please? Becky, a seconder. Karen, all in favor of the agenda? Okay, is there anything to add to the agenda? No? Okay, good. Adoption of the minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read the minutes. That was quite a busy meeting we had the last time around with a lot of things being discussed. I read through it. I didn't see anything missing or anything like that. So can we have a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, please? Janet, okay, a seconder. Dorothy, good. All in favor? Yes, okay. Now, did anyone see any errors or omissions from the last minutes? Nope, okay, we'll put that aside as done. Disclosure of monetary interest. Is there any disclosure of monetary interest? Anyone going to be making money on this meeting? Probably not. Okay, thank you very much. Project update. Hotel Rito. Mary.
Yes, so there's two applications that we have for Hotel Rito. So CIP 1702 and CIP 2004. So both these applications were presented to Committee of the Whole on April 26th. Application CIP 2004 for Program 1, which was the installation of the steel railings on the north-facing facade and on the accessible ramp at the rear, was approved and a funding agreement has now been enacted. Application CIP 1702 did receive in-principle approval through council resolution. The resolution was generally consistent with the committee's motion presented to the committee with a few minor adjustments to reflect council's discussion and interest.
Okay, thank you very much. And what was that one about? Sorry?
Which one, 1702?
Yes.
Yes, so that would have been the Program 4. So in-principle
Good.
approval for Program 4.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Priority issues. Okay, Program 1, Chuckles Jack. Mary, would you like to start us off with this, please?
Sure. So just a quick overview. So this is a revision of the application that committee reviewed last month. So this was a Program 1 application that was originally for the repainting of the facade. So that would have been on the restaurant side, it would have been the facades facing the Russell Street as well as the parking lot. Installation of new window awnings. So there was 4 of them along the parking lot facing side, and the construction of a newly oriented patio. So during the review of the committee, it was flagged that the property may be a recipient of the Tourism Recovery and Innovation Program grant through the OTO. So in accordance with Section 8, just as a recap, the community improvement plan, the town of Smith Falls reserves the right to limit or refuse funding where applicants have successfully applied for or received funding for similar purposes from other sources of grant or preferential loan assistance. So although the committee scored the application at 53%, which was a sufficient score, the application was returned back to the applicant for revisions to ensure that items weren't receiving duplicate funding. So we did receive a list of items that are being funded by OTO, which led to some revisions. So the construction of the patio has now been removed, given that funding is being received through the TRIP grant. And a new itemized quote, as per the committee's request, was received from Dharma Renovators to demonstrate the cost of the painting of the facade as well as the 4 awnings. However, the 4 awnings in this revised application have changed. The 4 awnings that were initially proposed to be facing the parking lot have already been installed, so they've been removed from the application. And he's proposing 4 new awnings on the bar side. So there's actually an entrance right at the intersection there of Market Street and Russell Street East. And he's proposing to put 4 awnings above windows at that location that are consistent with the design of the 4 awnings that have already been installed on the parking lot side. So additionally, the Tharma Renovators quote that's been received and itemized demonstrates several different forms of exterior lighting fixtures. So we did receive from OTO that the outdoors, that there is lighting being funded for the outdoor space, but we have not received any details as to which figures those are. So for the time being, but at the committee's discretion, staff are recommending that lighting included in the quotation being eligible for funding, as we're not in receipt of the information regarding the specific light fixtures. And this is just a recommendation based on the committee's discussion last month of not funding duplicate items. So although the attached quotation represents a cost of $16,674 before applicable taxes, removal of all lighting from the quotation would reduce the total cost of improvements to $10,030, making the application eligible for a maximum of $5,015. So there's a few items there that the committee should consider. Is more information needed to adequately assess the application? Does the proposal meet the goals of the CIP and design guidelines for the downtown core? And in the opinion of the committee, does the application appear to be eligible for some or all of the requested funding? So the committee was sent an evaluation survey prior to the meeting for the subject application. We received 5 responses this meeting. And there was an insufficient score of 35 out of 90 for a 39% given to this application.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for discussion on this. Becky, I think you've been talking to the TRIP people. Is there anything to add that Mary might have missed or whatever?
I think Mary captured it all. You know, we went into great detail with OHTO to just get the details of what was funded. We had to go back and forth a few times, but Mary was part of all of those conversations just to make sure we didn't have any duplicate items. So I would say, like, looking at it, I love what they've proposed. I think they've done a really great application. And I think, like, you know, when I look at, they would have had to provide a similar application to our application to OTO to get this funding. And I think it's a really positive thing that they're able to apply for the furniture. For example, we would never fund furniture, so they get to apply for the furniture as well. I do, you know, and I mean, to be honest with you, I am supportive of the things that they have applied for that are outside of the TRIP grant. You know, like redoing the facade is in rough condition. And I think that the CIP committee years ago had hoped that they would do the facade just to spruce it up with the inside that was funded. And it's nice to see that they're finally getting there to be able to do that as well as the patio. So I think if they weren't doing the patio and this wasn't COVID, I think that those items would be something that we would want to fund. So I know perhaps in a time where we have a bit of a tighter budget, but I mean, they are pretty lower, sort of lower budget things for us to fund. So if anybody has any other questions about the TRIP grant, feel free to ask, but I think Mary covered it off. We were pretty thorough in making sure we had all the details.
Okay, thanks, Becky. Chris?
Thanks, Serv. I think Chris Samir's trying to get in. I don't know if he's in the waiting room or if he's got the right code. But my question was just, I wanted to make it clear in my head. On Schedule D, we've got a picture of the existing site conditions. Are the new awnings going to match the 4 in that picture? Just because they're slightly different than what the mock-up shows. And I just want to confirm we're going to pay for.
Yeah, Becky or Mary, do either one of you have an answer to that one?
Sorry, was the question, why are the awnings in the elevation drawing different than what's proposed?
No, are they going to match the ones on the parking lot?
Good question.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
the awnings going on the backside of the building, are they going to match the ones that are currently on the parking lot side?
That's what I've been told. So they'll be consistent. So the new awnings on the bar side are meant to be consistent with all the awnings throughout the remainder of the facade. So that's the one awning facing Russell Street East that does have signage applied to it. And then there's 4 that are facing the parking lot above windows.
Okay,
Chris?
so this ask is for 4 awnings and painting on the 2 masonry sides of the building, the parking lot wall and the red brick wall and facing Russell Street. Is there anything else included in this ask? Just, I want to make sure I've got my,
Mary or Becky? Any answers, Mary?
I can speak to it. So this ask is for the painting of the facade where that brick is, so facing the parking lot as well as Russell Street on the restaurant facing side, as well as 4 awnings on the bar side at the intersection of Russell Street and Market Street. They've also included exterior lighting in the Tharma Renovators quote, the itemized quote that the committee asked for last month. But we don't have much information as to what OTO funded for exterior lighting, so staff just recommended that that be left out. But it is part of the application and it's at the committee's discretion whether or not they want to include some of that.
So are they intending to paint the Russell Street front also?
In preliminary discussions last year with the applicant, he did express an interest in doing the bar side as well. I haven't had any conversations recently with him that would have indicated their interest in doing this side, but there has been interest discussed in the past.
okay, so I guess that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 awnings. Well, maybe 6 awnings because the door already has one above it on the Russell Street red brick entrance. So if the awnings are going to match the ones in the parking lot, that's great. The mock-ups are kind of rough, so I was a little nervous there. I'd like to get that in writing or something that those awnings are going to match. I think painting masonry is just always a bad call. It never turns out well. So I don't support painting it black, but I'm interested to hear what people say. And if it's just the awnings and the paint, I think the lighting, we need more details. We don't have anything other than a quote. So like, where are they going to go? What are they going to look like? But happy to entertain that as more information becomes available.
Well, I think Tripp was going to cover the lighting anyways, was it not? Becky?
I didn't think that the lighting should be covered under TRIP, but I don't think so, but it's I don't think it should be covered, but I thought I'll throw in there as well that I do agree with Chris about the awnings. I think that would be a really important thing. I do probably like better the awnings that they've put in, and I think that's what Chris is saying as well, that they have been already in the parking lot side. So if they were consistent, like, I think that is good. But yeah, I agree with Chris that we should get that in writing. The only other thing I wanted to add was, yeah, I would also like to see the lighting if we're going to be funding that, because I think that's really important. And then finally, something that we might not be aware of, but as part of our design project that we did, we do have a document that planning and we have that kind of in our back pocket when it comes to some of the practices, such as painting masonry. If we were going to fund this, that we can tie in a document that contractors and designers use to make sure that these processes are done properly. So that's something that Mary and I and Carl discussed extensively when we received that, is that, you know, there's a process that is very detailed on exactly the process that the contractor would have to use if we were going to fund it, that would ensure that it would be a good paint job. And that includes using the proper paint, using the proper processes, using the proper sealers. And for example, this is not brick, but you know, doing it properly. And we have a document that we plan on sort of tying in if we ever fund painting masonry, for example, or wood or any product.
Okay, I'd just like to ask Chris Samir a question, and that is that all possible?
If the town's gonna specify for each particular product, or what are you saying? Sorry.
Well, I mean, to have a good coat of paint on the masonry and have it stick there for a good period of time, not be falling off in a year.
I've seen some good, depends on what the brick substrate is. Is it clay or is it a concrete? You have to have a painter that knows what he's talking about. It's not just a 12-year-old kid go out and start painting. It's got to be, not that 12-year-old kids can't paint, don't get me wrong, but they can, it has to be the proper product. Paint will stick to anything. It just has to be the proper product, and it has to be able to breathe. If that's acting as the vapor barrier or the air barrier in this case, it's a chance that it would never stay on anyway. Depends on it has to be able to breathe also.
Okay, Becky, and then Chris McGuire.
So exactly what Chris just said, and we kind of made that into a science. So basically we got the designer to create a document that's like, if it's concrete, then this is the process that, and they would say typically this is what they would use if they were hiring a contractor to do a job, and they would make them sign this. I don't know, Chris, if you run into situations like this, and it's a particular process depending on exactly what Chris said, what the product is, and if that needs to be sort of underpaint needs to be removed in certain situations. So it's all down to something to sort of help, if we're going to fund this, at least we have that additional assurance that it will be done properly.
Okay, thanks, Becky. Thanks, Chris. Chris McGuire.
Thanks, Serv. I think, so for me, there's nothing in this application that says that the quotes or shows that the quotes are going to follow any kind of process. So I have reservations on the process and the methods that would be used, but my real issue comes down to is painting over masonry a good design practice? And to me, it's not. To me, the masonry is meant to be a surface finish. It adds the character. It adds the red brick on the front there is the original finish on it. And if we cover that up, it's going to be painted forever. So, sure, we can whitewash it and it's going to be trendy for the first 5 years, but that brick's going to be painted forever and it's never going to go back to red bricks. So I think because it's not reversible like that, the concrete wall on the side, I'm more concerned about the method than the design of it, because it's just a concrete block wall. But I really, painting red brick is just, it's never worked out well in any downtown that I've ever seen. So despite it not being heritage brick and having the concerns about the moisture breathing, it just, from a design perspective, I think it's a terrible idea.
Sorry, Chris, Samir?
Is the blue building, is that Chuckles Jack? I'm just not even sure what that blue building represents.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't look anything like that. Okay. There's a second floor on it with windows and stuff. Where'd they all go? They're there.
Becky?
I just thought I just double checked, Chris, because I thought, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure about it. But the truth is it's already painted. So it's not brick right now. It's, if you look above the Chuckles Jack sign, there's still a bit of that brick facade that they put on there. It's already painted like a brick color. So that's the only thing that I think is worth considering, is that if you like it the color that it is, which is sort of like a terracotta, but if you were to look it up right now, it's not even the intact brick, which if it was, personally, I would be fully supportive of like only painting the side. But I just think that's something to consider, that it's already painted.
Okay, Chris McGuire, are you in support of painting the sides, the east and the west? Or do you think with the painted brick, we might as well paint over it anyways?
I don't think what would it be, the west or the east? The east isn't, there's no east facades included in this, right? The blue's staying blue.
Okay, let's go with the parking lot side and the Market Street side.
No, sorry, Russell Street side.
Well, for the Russell Street side, it's got brick on there, right?
The Russell Street side has the painted brick facade. Do you mean the
Yes.
Market Street, which is like the blue side, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that included, Mary?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So there's nothing on Market Street that I think is proposed at this point.
So the only thing that's proposed on Market Street at this point would be the 4 new awnings that are proposed. It's kind of at the corner there on that bar side, they call it, which is where you see the blue siding. The paint job is meant to be on the restaurant side, which would be on the Russell Street facade and the parking lot facing facade.
Well, the awnings, even if there's not a decorative trim over those windows now, how, I don't even know how the awning, I only looked at Google Earth, but is there not a decorative trim over that whole bar side that they call it?
Not really, Chris. I'm just looking at it, but. Looking at what they're proposing again.
Sorry, I'll just go to the satellite view again. This was 2019, so it could be on.
It's a bit difficult because what they're proposing isn't accurate to the building on with the Market Street side. So it is a bit difficult of a comparable.
Okay, so I hope I have this straight now. Oh, Janet?
Oh, I wanted to get some clarification. Was this building one of the ones that was part of the design that you did the red through economic development? Is this building one of them?
This building is not.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I thought, well, they've probably already gone through this with this proposing with the paint and etc. My other concern is that we've only received 1 quote, which I think is a bad practice for the awnings. But then again, maybe Chris Samir can say that pricing is decent. I don't know. But I just have a bit of a problem with us only getting 1 quote. So those are some of my thoughts.
This building was our first CIP program building for the interior for program 2. And I know at that time we definitely wanted something done with the exterior also. And now it's being proposed. So what we're looking at is awnings on the Market Street side and the door on the Russell Street corner. And we're looking at painting on the parking lot side and the Russell Street side. Do I have that straight? Have I missed anything there? Okay, I think I do have it straight. So that's what we're looking at funding for a total. He's asking for $10,030, so we could fund up to $5,015 on this. Mary, when the scores were added up, this did not pass, did it?
That's correct, Irv. It received a 39%.
And I'm wondering if there's a trend there. I probably put in some not applicables there. And I'm wondering whether that, without the, and I'm going to go back to what Chris Samir is talking about, and that is that, without our discussion ahead of time, it's difficult to figure out where our marks are really going to go. But I'm wondering if that was one of the trends that led us in that direction.
So in this particular case, most of the non-applicables actually ruled out sections. Sections being part 1 of basic design, windows and doorways was deemed non-applicable, as well as, oh, sorry, maybe I was wrong there. It was only the 1. So accessibility, there was a few non-applicables received there, but generally sufficient scores. And there was 1 non-applicable received for materials at the end of part 1, but generally, in my opinion, after reviewing this and having this in front of me and seeing everyone's scores, I would say that the non-applicables did not drag down the score.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to change any of that? Because at the moment, it doesn't qualify because the score is not high enough. Chris McGuire?
I'm wondering if it'd be good to send it back to them and say, these are our ways that we want to see the brick painted and the concrete blocks and get new quotes based on that. I agree with Janet on the 1 quote thing because you think awnings would be a pretty straightforward thing to get quotes for. We're not talking heritage wood doors or something. You can see, sorry, I was wrong with the brick on Russell Street. I thought it's too bad that got painted, but you can see on the Google Maps how the bricks are failing because it wasn't done properly. So not only are they going to have to paint over it, but they're going to have to do some kind of rehab on that before they do the painting. And I want to make sure that's all included, because I think if that's all included and this is going to last for 10 years and spruce up that corner, great. But right now, I don't think we have enough information as provided.
Okay, Chris Samir.
I don't know if I should have drove by this obviously, but on Google Maps, I look, still missing pieces of fascia up top. Putting the awnings on, I'd be putting perfume on a pig, basically. It's just, there's a nice decorative trim. I'm not sure that the awnings would, and they're not four distinct awnings anyway. It's, if this map on July 2019 is correct, or the street view on 2019 is correct, the awnings won't even work anyway. There's windows above it, there's trims. I have no, I don't think it's been well thought out. I think somebody just tried to slam the awnings in as an afterthought.
Okay, Becky.
I was gonna just, I agree, actually. I think it's a good point. I think we should go back for more information. What I would say is I would like to get more information about the lighting and assume that, because I personally assume that they're not going to be funded for lighting through Odo. So if they're going to ask for funding from us, I would like to see them. Maybe it's a good opportunity to have that conversation about what Chris Samir is saying about the building that corners on Market Street, because I do agree that I'm trying to make sense of it, because it doesn't look like the building that they have in their render. And maybe we look at just funding the awnings that are on the other building. The other thing is maybe we look at and also showing them that document and getting that agreement that they would tie into those best practices, which would involve fixing the masonry appropriately before it's painted properly. So, and then getting the second or third quote for the awnings as well. So I think there's lots of information to gather still.
Okay, could I ask Mary and Becky to maybe go back to the proponent and just have a chat with them and see if we can get a better feel for what's going on, because I think there's a lot of confusion on our committee here right now. So if we could do that, that would be great, if that's okay. Okay, Chris McGuire first and then Chris Samir.
Thanks, Irv. I think that's great. The only other thing I would include is the if there's anything being done to the windows, because it's hard to understand. You've got aluminum ones in the front, and then on the side you've got, it looks like white ones. So just to make sure that all of that's going to come together really well, because I assume they're not going to paint them, but just make sure we get a really clear what's in and what's out from them for next month.
Perfect. Chris Samir.
Can we ask either staff or the applicant to take existing pictures that we can actually see? I'm going on Google Earth. I guess we all could make a trip there, but it would be probably so much easier if somebody would take a picture from afar so that we could see what the heck we're looking at. It wouldn't be just, we assume that Google's right, but is it? I don't know.
Okay, Mary, could you do that for us, please, for the next meeting? Okay, thank you. Okay, any other discussion on this one? Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next one. So 18 Beckwith Street. Mary, could you start us off with this, please?
All right, so this is another application that you're seeing again for the second time. So the committee considered the Program 2 application for the renovation of a second-story residential unit located at 18 Beckwith Street North last month. During the review, it was recognized that the subject property had been chosen to participate in the downtown revitalization rendering project. And upon that, the committee chose to return the application back to the applicant and ask that a proposal for Program 1 be made to accompany the Program 2 application. So staff have received details supporting a funding request under Program 1 for the subject property. The application proposes to remove old paint, clean the facade, replace old and damaged bricks, as well as metal sheeting, as well as painting both street facing facades. So that's Beckwith Street and William Street facing. The design is generally consistent with the rendering received through the project. So what the applicant is, however, omitting signage. So that's the mural signage facing Beckwith Street, the projecting sign, as well as the window signs, all on the Beckwith Street facing facade. That's just on the basis that the interior renovation requires more immediate attention. So they don't want to be exhausting funds redoing the exterior. So the applicant has provided 2 quotations to support the cost of the facade improvements. These 2 quotations demonstrate a maximum value of $13,775 before applicable taxes. So with this, the applicant has demonstrated a maximum eligible grant value of $6,887.50 for the facade improvements through the quotations received. This accompanies the Program 2 application, which is essentially unchanged. So it's for the renovation of the upper story unit, which I believe you would all recall, and includes items such as new hardwood flooring, baseboard trim, new electrical fixtures, drywall, ceramic floor tile, kitchen countertops, bathroom fixtures, repainting the walls, stairwell repair, broken window replacements, etc. So for the Program 2 application, the applicant had demonstrated a maximum value of $46,745. So they would be maximum for the eligible amount of $20,000 in accordance with the lower tier amount for Program 2, which is a forgivable loan over a 5-year period. So I did not send out a reevaluation for Program 2 as the application remains unchanged. That score did come in last month as a reminder of 9 out of 48 of applicable criteria. Prior to this meeting, I circulated an evaluation survey for Program 1 to complete. So we received again 5 responses demonstrating a score of 44 out of 75, which demonstrates a sufficient score of 59%.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Any discussion? We'll start with Becky and then we'll go to Chris McGuire.
Okay, I just thought I would, this is exciting for us because we're seeing that first project come in from doing the downtown revitalization design project, and it's a very quick turnaround, so it's exciting to see one come in. I think what I just wanted to say first of all is, I do think that this building, it's not a heritage building, but it is a not a great looking building in our downtown. It's right on Beckwith Street, and I think it would be really impactful. It's right on the corner. It's been a challenging building in the past. We've had some struggles with that property. And so I see this as, even though it's not a heritage building and which would, be an ideal investment for us, I see this as being something that could be very pivotal and influential in a positive way for the whole downtown, which I think is really the spirit of the CIP. So I'm really pleased to see this. I will tell you a couple of things. I'm just speaking to Program 1 right now, but I would like to see him add in the signage, because if we were going to agree to this and fund this, I really don't want it to be like a 90% finished. I would like it to be just that little bit more, which would include that sign, which actually is not, this sign was proposed to be, and just to show different examples through the downtown, a painted sign. So it's actually a fairly affordable sign. And I think it's something that maybe got to be a bit of an afterthought, but this is the type of program where we get to tie in those finishing pieces. I also see the electrical infrastructure for the lighting, and I wonder if this is the perfect opportunity for us to, leverage those 2 pieces, to get the lighting, to get the new sign, in order to give this funding, which I think would be really impactful. And the third thing would be that window sign. So again, we're just looking at trying to make those changes in the downtown with just window design and making it pleasing in that way. So I personally probably wouldn't try to be as worried about the projecting sign, which is the one that is a bit more expensive and maybe is not as high on my priority list personally, but I'd really love to see that signage and ideally even the lighting included.
Okay, thank you. Chris McGuire and then Janet.
Yeah, I agree with Becky 100%. I think this is, at least on getting everything for this one. I think like this is it's a challenging building. I'm not over the moon about what's been proposed, but it's a bit of an improvement. For me, it's a 5-part thing. You've got the 2-tone paint, you've got the new sign, you've got the lighting, you've got the window stickers or etchings, and you've got the projecting sign. And if we do one of the 5 or 2 of the 5 or 3 of the 5, it's going to look like a 20%, 40%, 60% effort. So I'd like to see everything. And I especially like we need to see that the painting is going to be done in a way that it's going to stick to that masonry. So I think that needs to be part of this agreement if it's to go forward.
Thanks, Chris. Janet?
And those were kind of my thoughts as well. I assume that's been communicated if they were part of that project, that they already know that the treatment has to be as per what was written up by the designer, correct? The painting that they're proposing in this quote, is that going to be as per the instructions that the designer had, Becky?
So that's a great question. I don't think at this point, probably he or Chuckles Jack would know that because it hasn't been the process when they submitted that, we do that. But what Mary and I and Carl discussed while we were doing this project is that it would be something that we always leverage. So no, they don't know it, but I think it's probably not far off from them. They just would provide that to their painter. Like, here's your contract. This is the details you have to follow.
Would that not change the cost then, potentially? I mean, they've given us a quote at probably, none of what you're talking about has been looked at to. It's probably more involved, I would think. So we probably are looking at more money.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Like the paint itself might cost more if this proposal is not the proper paint, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. And I think it's something that probably when we have a masonry application, we probably should provide that to them right away, especially like this is the first opportunity we probably had to discuss that. But if that's how the group feels, that we always want to tie in these practices, which of course I think we do, then we can start like sharing that with them right away so that they know that their quotes need to be like these properly done paint jobs. Yeah.
And I agree too that we had a design proposed for them. And to me, those etchings would not be that costly. If they don't want to do that right now, tie that into the agreement and, they need to do that by maybe propose a date, not too far out so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. But those are my thoughts.
Okay, any other discussion? Chris McGuire?
Thanks, sir. Maybe I missed it in the report, but I want to confirm this includes the William Street facade because that's about twice the frontage. It's got just as big of a sign on it. And if you're on Google Maps, you can see a broken door, an air conditioner with a boarded up window, an awning that's falling apart, and a bunch of vehicles and no grass. So like, can we tie in, like, let's get that lawn reseeded. Let's get all of this stuff cleaned up because I think by putting the Beckwith Street facade on the application, it's a little bit of a cop out. Like there's a lot going on that's going to be facing the Rito Hotel that needs to be dealt with. And I want to make sure that's included if they're going to get assent from the town.
Okay, I can agree with that, but I'm going to flip the coin here and just say that, we're in the middle of COVID and I don't know how much money is flowing around the town, but there's probably people who are having issues. I think we're all employed, even if we're retired, we're still employed with the government. So, I have no idea what this person's financial capability is. Maybe their financial capability is not good enough to do everything. Maybe they need the apartment upstairs to be renovated first so that they have funding coming in. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there right now. Chris McGuire.
Like, I think if people are going to invest in buildings in our downtown and there's some key commercial properties for sale right now, The real estate market's incredibly hot. If you can't afford to take care of your building in a way that's respectful of our downtown and gives it the credit it deserves, it's time to put it up on the market and get your cash out of that building.
Okay, Becky.
I don't disagree. It's not, on a separate note, and I thought maybe I should speak to program 2 since that is part of this here. And I know we've already had some past discussions and but I was wondering, I do tend to agree. Well, I agree with you, Chris, about the William Street side. And Mary, I don't know if we have an answer to that, if that has been addressed. I would think, like in my mind, I thought it was the entire building. So we don't have a render, but I had thought sort of the paint extended to there. Is that, do you know, Mary?
I do understand that it was included.
It was, okay. So that makes me feel better because I do agree that like we wouldn't want to just do that facade, the corner, you see it bang together. So I totally agree that, you know, we want to wrap around the whole building. I was wondering, I think Chris McGuire makes a interesting point about the green space there, another one of our priorities. And if I could bring it back to program 2, I can't say I disagree with a lot of the points and concerns we've had in the past, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity there to leverage a few of those other things. Again, during it's COVID right now. If we wanted to see him plant a tree there or reseed the grass or something like that, if there was an opportunity that we might consider providing a certain amount of funding for the program 2 application and leverage a few more of those items that we wanted to see in the facade.
Okay, Chris McGuire.
I just don't understand why we'd use program 2 for program 1. The landscaping and that stuff is accounted for in the evaluation for the program 1. So it's a program 1 thing. I still don't support the renovations because I think it's when a place like this uses the term rustic, it's a red flag to me. So I do want to see the boarded up window, the broken door, the awning, all of that stuff. Like there's a lot more than a coat of paint on the side here. There's a lot of landscaping stuff. And if we can up the program 1 ask, great. But I don't see them as being connected. I don't know.
Okay, I think the program 2 we're looking at because they want to do the interior, looking at it as leverage to get program 1 items done also. Program 1 does not give them any direct funding coming back to them. Program 2 does. If they can rent the apartment, then that's funding coming back to them to recoup some of their costs for the outside if we want them to do the outside. But it sounds like we have other questions regarding the proper paint on the walls and other things that they're going to do. So I'm going around the screen here. I don't see that we have agreement to proceed with the outside at the moment unless we can get a better product for the outside. And if we're not going to use program 2 as leverage, then we should say that up front. And let them know. Chris Samir.
I have no intentions of funding anything for program 2 whatsoever. You let your place get run down like that. That is not up to taxpayers to pay for that. None whatsoever. I support fully program 1. And I don't know if we can be in the specification game where all of a sudden if the paint that we suggest fails, are we liable? I don't want to get into that game. That's I think they'd either have a heritage consultant or have somebody that's knowledgeable enough to do it. I don't think we want to specify what product they're going to use. And can I go on for one more second, if you don't mind?
Go ahead, and then Becky.
Yeah, these people probably had the best estimators that I've ever seen. I'm suggesting maybe there might have been a bit of collusion on the estimating. When you go from 40,166, 42.5 and 47.45 on that scope of work, at least give us a break and make the numbers bigger or spread. There's no way you're going to be within $6,000 on that scope of work at these times. So if you're going to just send somebody and ask them for a quote based on another quote, at least spread the numbers out a little bit. It shows it just has very little respect for us, actually.
Becky?
Yeah, so on a separate note, I think, going back to the program on application, maybe what we could do when we go back to the applicant, I feel like this is what we got agreement on, but maybe we should speak to that, is that we are interested in funding it. We want to tie in the lighting, we want to tie in the signage, all those pieces. We want to tie in, and Chris Samir, I think it's more actually, rather than a product, it's more of a process that we'll tie them into. So it's just like, it's more of a process than really product. I think they can use any brand of product or whatever that they want. It's just a matter of the processes that we will get them to sort of tie into. And as long as that's a great opportunity for us to go back and make sure that he has buy-in to those practices. And as well, do we want to suggest what other things we want to see? Because again, they can come back and add to their program one ask because they didn't max it out. So if we wanted to have him reseed the grass, and obviously those are not costly items, but is there something else? And Chris McGuire, you mentioned a few things, but do we want to get those out right now as to what we want to see and get an agreement to that?
Chris McGuire?
Maybe can I share my screen here and we can just take a look at this Russell Street side, if that's okay.
Which side?
Or sorry, William Street. Okay, is that up for people?
It's covered there.
Wow, you're good.
Okay. So, so I guess for me, there's the 5 things we talked about, like the 2-tone paint, the lighting, the signage, the windows. But then on this is kind of been left out from the imaging. So, like this is how bad the grass is, right? I don't even know if this is a parking area because there's no curb for it. So I don't know, figure out if that's even legal, what's going on here. We've got this awning that something needs to be done with. We've got this door that hasn't been working for a while. I don't know if it's fixed now or not. And then we've got this boarded up air conditioner window here. So those would be the kind of highlights on this side, I guess. And we making sure they're going to paint these windows, or are the windows included, or is it going to be white against black, or how's all of this stuff come together? Because there's a lot of features on this side, and this is like the front residential entrance to the Rito hotels right across the street. So you can see how much Parkview's cleaned up next door. Like that building was
Probably is worse than the building to the left. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's great. Look, it looks great now. So it'd be really awesome to have this this cleaned up. Is there anything else anybody wants to point out while I've got this up, or take it down?
I would point out the awning. So I think that awning needs to be replaced.
Probably over top of the other door also.
It looks like they've got some electrical to put a little light there. Would cleaning that up, even that window up with the air conditioner, they probably need that air conditioner for that downstairs property. Like if that was just cleaned up, and painted out black so you didn't really notice it, is that what we're looking for as a solution?
I think that should be part of it.
I mean, these are the things I think we can tie in there. Do we want to see anything else with the green space or just grass?
If you ask them to reseed it, if they don't maintain it, it's not going to grow, right? So they need to be watering it and fertilize, whatever you do. I'm not but I just wonder if, they can put some seed down, but if they don't continually maintain it, it's just going to look exactly the same as it is.
Exactly.
With the salt and everything else, there's no chance that grass would ever grow there. The salt and the 150-degree sun's baking on it every day. Unless you put in irrigation, it's not going to grow anyway. So you might as well not put seed down, quite frankly. But anyway, how about
What else could we do with it?
turf? Indoor, outdoor carpet?
Becky?
Would it help if, and I mean, we would have to obviously talk to Public Works and everything, but what about if we were able to do some kind of like low tree, like an ornamental apple or something that was like gonna offer some shade there? Because I mean, I guess we've removed most of the grass in that is close proximity to the salt and things like that. It's a good point. But I'm wondering if putting something in there would offer a little bit of protection.
If you put shrubs in or anything like that, then you have to put mulch in. No, you could put a tree in, like a flowering crab or something, and put a little ring around at the bottom, and then it save the grass possibly. But if otherwise you can't put mulch in. Somebody comes out and flicks a cigarette butt, the whole thing's on fire. And you can't put stones in. You probably don't want stones downtown, I wouldn't think so. So it does get tough, doesn't it?
It does. Mary first and then Chris McGuire.
Sorry, I just wanted to speak to a comment that Chris Samir made. He mentioned the road salt and whatnot from the road. So I just want to reiterate that that area would be challenging to landscape. We would have to be careful about the species proposed. We want to make sure that whatever would be planted there would thrive, because the road salt